Locust invasions represent the ultimate symbol of a plague in the collective mind. In Madagascar, this awkward natural phenomenon has recently been so intense that it has plunged millions of people into utter misery. The locust swarms devour everything in their paths, and for the rural populations, this is an authentic catastrophe. The government of Madagascar has appealed for help to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. To defeat an insect that flies quickly and reproduces itself at an amazing rate, a complex human and logistics organization needs to be set up. And there are people whose job it is to fight this unusual war against a flying insect. The fighting against the locusts starts at dawn. A team is heading to one of the 2 aerial bases specifically deployed for the locust combat. A combat that will last 3 long years. Indeed, locusts infest many of the world's countries, but in Madagascar, it has turned into a massive invasion. Hazina is Malagasy, and he plays an essential part. He's in charge of surveying the country in order to find the locusts.
6h30 local.
Olivier instead is French, and his role is equally important, as he is the helicopter pilot.
On va traiter à Bandot.
Due to Madagascar's uneven landscape, almost all surveys are carried out by aerial vehicles. On one of the planet's largest islands, finding the locusts is not an easy task. These swarms travel tens of kilometers daily and can be anywhere. Also, Madagascar features deep valleys and enclaved areas where the insects are very difficult to spot. Hazina carries the difficulty of his task on his shoulders. It feels like a huge responsibility to him. In fact, the survival of millions of his countrymen depends entirely on their small plot of land. A swarm can consume up to 100,000 tons of vegetation per day. Every swarm detected on time means avoiding famine to thousands of small farmers who are already in distress. Hazina knows locusts like no other. Also, his father used to be a locust surveyor and has passed all his knowledge on to him.
Hazina, c'est quelqu'un qui connaît Madagascar, la zone qu'il la connaît par cœur. On ne sait même pas comment il fait, mais il va me dire va à droite, va à gauche, monte, descend, ralentit. En fait, je regarde sa main et petit à petit, je tourne à droite ou à gauche selon la main où elle va. C'est l'homme qui trouve les criquets, quoi.
Normally, the locusts live solitarily on the south side of the island, their natural habitat, and they don't represent a danger. But unusual weather conditions have increased their reproduction. In addition, the country lacked the necessary means to control this demographic explosion. The insect has thus become gregarious and undergone a true behavioral mutation. Swarms with a ferocious appetite have started to fly and have invaded almost 2/3 of the island, destroying everything they find on their way. The locusts now reproduce in the invaded areas, thereby continuing the threat. In the south of the island, another aerial base has been deployed. C2 is the national locust expert. He too is getting ready for a survey. Interviewing the population is one of the methods used to find the insects. The villagers have suffered an attack and guide C2 to their fields.
Tout est parti. Normalement, le riz est en cours de maturation. Il devrait avoir cette hauteur, mais comme nous avons constaté ici sur le terrain, tout est parti, il n'y a plus rien à voir. Donc le paysan, il a complètement perdu toute la récolte pour ce cycle. Il n'a plus d'espoir pour leur futur, mais il faut continuer tout simplement à vivre comme il faut, dans des conditions très très précaires. Dans une zone où nous sommes passés, il y avait quelqu'un qui a eu 10 hectares de riz et tout est parti suite au passage d'un naissant. Ce qui s'est passé, le monsieur, il est décédé sur place.
Our farmer has a few animals which will allow his family to survive until the next harvest. Florentine, instead, lost everything when a swarm paid a visit to her cornfield. Now she has to gather wild fruits to feed her children.
Zahay le antengay fidjalay zahay na nikazakuwa ke na ke na vevelala le benandro ma humankani benandro le miroro avao sindra volagna fianarana zazao fa tsy tafavoaka tsy voaloha aby ka miankatra hina nikazao.
Other villagers try to get by as they can and gather the locusts either to eat them or sell them on the markets. In the meantime, 500 kilometers from there, Hazina is seeking for a silver reflection or a movement among the high grasses, the slightest signal that might indicate the presence of larvae. If a swarm is an astonishing phenomenon, locust larvae are much more difficult to spot. The insect has not yet developed wings and remains hidden in the vegetation. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack. Olivier has to fly really low in order to scan the ground properly. this is not without danger. He needs to constantly watch out for obstacles and be ready to carry out a sudden change of direction. Hasina has spotted the remnants of a fire. This could be a sign, as villagers often make fires in an attempt to repel the locusts with the smoke. He was right to land. There are quite a few young locusts hidden between the high grasses. Hasina, with his colleague Matthias, take note of all the traits of the young colony. The sort of pesticide they will use will depend on the phase of development of the locusts, as well as on the area where they are found.
Il faut l'anéantir parce que il lui reste pas trop de temps pour être mature.
Oui, c'est ça. Peut-être
En
dans
10 jours.
2 semaines.
Oui, c'est ça, 10 à 15 jours,
Oui.
ils vont commencer à pondre. Donc, il faut casser ça maintenant. La végétation, elle est bonne. Il y a la pluie. Et en plus, un peu de la chaleur, c'est tout. Le développement va s'accélérer.
They will have to return soon to disinfest the area. In the meantime, the searching continues. Finding the swarms has priority. At the same time, on the other side of the island, the whole village gathered around C2's helicopter. C2 tells the villagers to not succumb to pessimism and encourages them to sow the seeds again. Now that measures are in place in the region, there's no more risk of a swarm passing again through their fields. The surveys are now over, and Hasina and Olivier get back to the base. This is currently located on the site of the airport of Miandrivazo, a small town in the central part of the country. The bases are mobile. Once the locusts have been totally eliminated from the surrounding area, the bases are transferred to a new infested area. Many people busy themselves to ensure its operations 7 days a week, basically every day of the year. It's from these bases that both aerial as well as ground operations take off. The Malagasy team lives in tents in not very comfortable conditions.
Ny tena mahasarotra ny ady amin'ny valala zany dia voalohany aloha dia ny fialana tao an-tokantrano. miala ny vady aman-janaka. Ohatra zany tamin'ny ty kapaina faharoa amin'ny voalohany sy faharoa zao, anatin'ny 12 volana, ty 10 andro fotsiny zany natao trandro. Fa ny tontolo andronao zany lany any ambanivohitsy.
Olivier and Christophe are the only Frenchmen on the base. Their mission lasts for 3 months, after which they will be replaced by a new team.
Bon, et toi, ça te manque, toi, un petit peu la famille, hein?
Ouais.
Ouais.
Que quelques jours.
Ouais.
Plus que 18 et c'est bon.
De retrouver femme et enfant.
Ouais.
Ben oui, c'est sûr que la famille, elle me manque, hein. C'est pas quand même... C'est sympa et tout, mais la vie au camp, c'est quand même pas facile non plus, hein, je veux dire ça. Toute ta vie, en fait, tu vas t'apprendre à t'en servir de l'hélico. Parce qu'il va te surprendre, même avec des milliers d'heures de vol. Lui, il pensait qu'un truc, c'est à te mettre par terre. Et ça fait qu'il faut que tu veilles à la seconde par seconde à rester en l'air avec lui. Parce que lui, si tu as une seconde d'inattention, il va te mettre au tas.
Back home in the Camargue, Olivier works as a pilot in the agricultural field. This experience in Madagascar, even if very difficult, is very meaningful on the human side.
Quand je me pose dans un village, ce que j'adore, parce que ça me rappelle ma jeunesse, quand j'étais tout jeune, j'étais passionné, je voyais l'hélicoptère venir traiter chez moi, et j'étais émerveillé devant cet instrument. Mon plaisir, c'est d'aller à la rencontre des enfants, parce que pour eux, on est des dieux, quoi, quelque chose qui vole et tout. Ça fait que je m'approche, je descends de la cabine, je vais vers eux, je me mets à 4 pattes. Et là, une fois que je suis à leur hauteur, ils viennent tous vers moi. Et ça, c'est un plaisir immense. J'ai envie de dire à tous mes collègues pilotes qui viennent sur Madagascar pour traiter, approchez-vous de ces gamins et mettez-vous à leur hauteur et vous verrez, c'est magique.
The working day is not over for everybody. Hasina goes over all the data he collected in the morning about locusts, the environment, and the weather. The information will be passed over to the FAO offices in Antananarivo. There, the data are processed by a small specialized team. Then they are mapped for the planning of the base operations. Because the battle against the locusts cannot be improvised.
C'est vraiment impraticable. Mais à partir de Ranouir, on peut faire une base secondaire ici pour une journée ou bien deux.
From the start of the crisis, Annie Monard, a FAO locust expert, has been tasked with devising a viable strategy. This complex strategy is based on a multitude of interconnected factors, and it needs tens of millions of dollars to be implemented. The international community has offered the country financial support to this end.
Lutter pendant 3 ans contre une invasion acridienne ne s'improvise pas. Il faut être capable d'épandre comme il faut, quand il faut et où il faut de grandes quantités de pesticides, de veiller à leur parfaite efficacité de manière à éviter que la crise se prolonge, des fois pendant une décennie, et le faire sans créer d'impact sur la santé humaine et l'environnement.
The helicopter team went for a refreshing splash. The region of Miandrivazo is known to be the hottest of the whole country. The region counts about 100,000 inhabitants, the largest part of which lives on the cultivation of rice. Many small-scale farmers live in complete isolation. They're the ones most at famine risk if they are affected by the invasion. The small town of Miandrivazo is located in a swamp which often gets flooded during the rainy season. The base is just a few kilometers from the town. When night falls, the whole base is already asleep as operations restart at dawn. The next day, Tsitu has detected a swarm. He communicates to the base all information necessary to start disinfecting the following day. The swarm is 15 kilometers long and moves at a speed of about 20 kilometers an hour.
Un essaim, il apparaît pas comme ça. Un essaim, c'est le résultat d'un processus au cours duquel le criquet est progressivement devenu grégaire. Tous les événements importants de la vie des différents individus sont synchronisés. On a eu les pontes en même temps, on a eu les éclosions en même temps, on a eu le développement larvaire en même temps, on a la dernière mue en même temps. Tous ces criquets ailés vont se mettre à voler ensemble. C'est un essaim. Cette capacité qu'ont les criquets à passer d'une phase solitaire à une phase grégaire est quelque chose de tout à fait exceptionnel dans le monde animal. C'est un criquet qui est différent dans son aspect, dans son comportement, dans son appétit par rapport au criquet solitaire. Chaque individu est capable de manger son propre poids par jour. Ce sont des milliers de tonnes qui peuvent être consommées par un essaim si cet essaim n'est pas rapidement anéanti.
Tsitu wants to study a few female locusts to understand if they've already laid eggs. If so, a new generation will soon be flying around. The generations born out of a swarm are born gregarious and will form new swarms. It's a true vicious circle.
Nous, notre objectif, c'est de casser cette invasion acridienne qui est en cours, ce qui ne signifie pas qu'on élimine l'espèce. Au contraire, parce que l'espèce, elle est importante pour l'écosystème.
The following day, the whole combat logistics is operative. Trucks transport barrels of pesticides and fuel to take them as near as possible to the swarm detected by Tsitu. This way, the helicopter that will perform the treatment will be able to replenish more quickly. In Madagascar, to move around by truck isn't always easy. Sometimes it takes many days to cover just 100 kilometers, especially in the rainy season. One of the trucks got stuck just a few kilometers from the arrival point. Once the destination has been reached, all action is about preparing the helicopter for combat. The spraying needs to be done early in the morning when the temperature is low and the insects, numbed, lay on the ground. There is no time to lose.
Ça, c'est le point où il y avait les dégâts de sur-maïs.
Oui, oui, oui. Tu peux me redire les surfaces? Il y a
760 pour les 5 qu'on a trouvés sur les collines.
Sur les collines, d'accord. Et 370, c'est celui qui est sur la vallée?
Sur la vallée, d'accord.
D'accord.
The team determines the location where the swarm has laid down for the night.
8,9.
The calculations are based on various data given by Tsitu, the GPS coordinates, the wind direction, and the traveling speed of the swarm.
D'accord. Eh bien, on va aller dessus.
To pilot a helicopter and spread pesticides at the same time is not an easy task. Statistics indicate this occupation as one of the most risky ones in the field of aeronautics.
Ah, là, une seconde d'inattention, c'est pas bon, quoi. C'est-à-dire là, c'est ce qui nous fatigue le plus, c'est pas physiquement parce qu'on n'a pas d'effort à faire, mais visuellement et de concentration, c'est ce qui nous fatigue le plus parce que le traitement se fait à des grandes vitesses, 150 à 165 km/h à peu près. On traite à 10 mètres de haut, c'est-à-dire faire attention, il y a des arbres qui sont plus hauts, des arbres morts qui sont pas forcément visibles, plus le relief, c'est pas forcément très montagneux, mais il y a des parois qui sont relativement abruptes et là-dedans, il y a des jours où il y a un petit peu de vent avec des ascendants, des rabattants, il y a tout ça géré en même temps, quoi. Plus la pulvérisation, où il faut tenir compte d'un tracé bien précis, à des zones bien précises. Il faut qu'on gère ce qui se passe au sol, c'est-à-dire que dès qu'on voit une petite habitation, on coupe la pulvérisation. On ne pulvérise pas les maisons, on ne pulvérise pas les rivières, on ne pulvérise pas les cultures.
In addition, locusts are prey to some birds. These fly around within the swarms and are not scared off by the helicopters. Considering the speed at which the pilot flies, a bird which weighs 1/2 kilogram can become a mortal bullet. Some tens of minutes later, the swarm has been annihilated. A jeep is driving towards the base at Miandrivazo. It carries biopesticides. As the name suggests, biopesticides are biological pesticides. Their transportation needs to be careful because they are very sensitive to warmth and they need to be carried inside portable refrigerators. Madagascar has one of the most extraordinary ecosystems on the Earth. Many vegetal and animal species are indigenous. The protection of the biodiversity is therefore essential. Contrary to traditional pesticides, organic pesticides don't pollute the soil, vegetation, or water. And they only kill the locusts without killing other insects. When intervention is requested in national parks or eco-sensitive areas, conventional pesticides are out of the question, and biopesticides are the only available option. Before using them, the team must check their virulence. Biopesticides are in fact living organisms formulated from mushroom spores. When these spores enter in contact with a locust, they germinate and develop inside the locust's body, killing it eventually. This great method has only one downside. It takes the mushroom many days to kill the locust.
Les biopesticides sont très importants, en particulier dans un contexte comme celui de Madagascar qui a une biodiversité exceptionnelle. Néanmoins, le propos de la lutte contre l'invasion actuelle, c'est de la stopper le plus rapidement possible. Il est clair que compte tenu du temps d'action des biopesticides, compte tenu également de leur coût, ce ne sera pas l'arme privilégiée pour répondre à l'invasion acridienne à Madagascar.
Pendant ces 3 dernières années, nous avons répandu des centaines de milliers de litres de pesticides. Vous savez, la lutte anti-acridienne, ce n'est pas balancer des pesticides n'importe où et n'importe comment. Mais ça nécessite du professionnalisme.
There are some protests against this method judged hazardous to the environment. But according to Situ, the real attack to the Malagasy ecosystem resides elsewhere.
2,5.
L'utilisation des pesticides par rapport à la pratique des feux de brousse ici, c'est rien du tout. C'est minuscule devant la réalité.
Situ knows what he's talking about. He has flown many times over the whole country and has often witnessed enormous, devastating fires. Each year in Madagascar, hundreds of thousands of hectares of savanna end up in smoke. The cause of those burnings is often related to the agricultural and grazing traditions. The farmer's custom is to refresh the lands by setting them on fire, an ancestral method that allows them to obtain a more fertile land. As for the breeders, they have the habit of burning the dry parts of the savanna. This way, when it grows back, some fresh grass is available to their cattle. In Madagascar, the dry weather combined with the wind are the main factors propagating the fires. Numerous forests disappear due to the fires. But the forests are home to almost all native species on the island. Among the damaged flora, there is the tree which the Malagasy people with fondness call the mama of the forest, the baobab. The small town of Befandrina used to pride itself on 2 magnificent baobabs, which formed a beautiful natural access gate along the road. In 2015, one of these emblems was killed by flames. According to Tsitu, the locust invasion is indirectly responsible for its death. Indeed, a swarm had attacked the nearby fields, causing panic among the inhabitants. As per custom, people had lit a fire in an attempt to repel the insects with the smoke. Unfortunately, the fire propagated, reaching one of the two colossal guardians of the town. In just a few days, centuries of flora life, a splendid baobab, and a true symbol have been reduced to ashes.
Quand on fait la prospection aquidienne, ce qui nous fait mal, ce n'est pas seulement de trouver la misère des paysans, des villageois, mais il y en a aussi la dégradation de l'environnement, la dégradation de notre biodiversité.
Before integrating the crisis unit against the locusts, Tsitu worked for the Flora Conservation Department.
Il a à peu près 400-500 ans. C'est un petit baobab. Mais c'est pas mal parce que ça existe encore. Qu'est-ce qu'on va laisser à notre génération future? Est-ce qu'ils auront encore le temps de voir cette beauté de ce pays?
As always, Hazina relentlessly carries out his surveys. The women and the children, terrorized by his arrival, hide inside their huts. The farmers show Hazina the flour made from wild potatoes, which is the only thing they have available for consumption. And they even eat it without salt. The farmers haven't seen any locusts. But very soon Hazina is going to watch a distressing live event. Hazina flies over a cloud of insects that has landed on the fields of an enclosed village, and there's nothing he can do. The whole village attempts to disperse the locusts by making noises. But the attempt is doomed to fail. The swarm is far too large. Even the leaves of the trees have been eaten up. Hazina meets the owners of a devastated field. One of the two is cross with him and asks why he didn't intervene. Hazina explains that he's there only to survey and that his helicopter is not equipped to spray pesticides. He promises that he'll be back the next day for the treatment. The two farmers, Vera and Tuhitsi, indicate to Hazina the position of their village. Vera and Tuhitsi now have to break the bad news to their families.
Manao zavatra malotoloto na mangalasy matoa ny lesy magna zany de seho amizay resaka halasy foy resaka familia mamay nay tany. Diako an'izay koa reny famofoky amin'olo de bosako zao de botagnako so namofoky olo teo zay asa amin'ny anaovako. Ty sy mba hitako amizay ny zavatra ilofany anahy nefa ao avao ny zavatra mahameloky anazy aminahy. Matoa iaho nataony an'izay. Sy zavatra nahameloky azy avao fa fahotana moa raha sy afaky amin'ny olo de zay atao hoe raha ohatra ka nanana fahotana de mibebaka raha pisy koa.
Vera has just told his mother what happened. On his return, Hazina talks to the head of the base to decide on an intervention plan to be able to help the villagers already the next day.
Litika ataony valala fa lafa mitandreny paysary eny aty aho. Misy koa mbo tena nisy fotoana nahatosy atena tamin'ny 2012 reny. Tena mamono valala teny anay ny vary lany ny valala. Zay zany ny tiavako manampy an'le izy.
During this rainy season, the sky often rumbles in the late afternoon and it turns threatening. The next morning, it's pouring. taking the helicopter for spraying is out of the question. This comes as a blow to Hasina and his team. They can't intervene at the village today. But the rain will not prevent the locusts from devastating. It can happen that the rain impedes all operations for many days in a row. Meanwhile, there's quite a bit of bustle in Miandrivazo. People are looking for shelter, but some are already soaked and take it in their stride. The weather seems to be getting a little better. Olivier and Christophe decide to go to town for a beer.
Je rentre à la maison. J'en ai ma dose. J'en ai ma dose, là.
The next day it's sunny, but the inhabitants of the region are still suffering the consequences of the heavy rainfall. Hasina and his team can finally keep their promise and try to save what they can. The whole population has remained at the village so as to not inhale the pesticides. First, the helicopter chases away the locusts that swarm near the waters. The water can't be contaminated by the pesticides. Once the locusts have moved away, the spraying can start. The village chief thanks all the team members. Thanks to them, a small part of the crops has been saved. The helicopter flies over the small village one last time and takes off to new adventures. The unlucky Vera and Tohitsi, who have lost everything, have difficult months in store for them. They will have to survive until the next harvest and live on wild fruits and hunting. And it will certainly not be easy to feed their large families. When locusts appear on the horizon, for men it's a challenge.